Hello everyone, today we are looking at book 10, lines 439 to 509, being the second segments, which has been given to us by Vika. Let's start with 439 to 461. In tre soror alma monet sucere laus aturnum, qui volucri currum medium secat agmen. So, inter meanwhile, the soror alma, his nurturing sister, Monet, encouraged Turnum, Turnus, let me just change that highlighter, sucedere to relieve Lausus. Okay, so sucedere taking the dative there with Lausus. So meanwhile, his nurturing sister encouraged Turnus to relieve Lausus. Qui volucri curru, medium seca, and cut through medium agmen, the middle of the lines, volucri curru, on his fleeting chariot, okay, or with his fleeting chariot. I think on his fleeting chariot works. So, and cut through the middle of the lines on his fleeting chariot. Ut vidit Socios, and as he saw his allies, all right, he's going to speak. So as he saw his allies, and he begins speaking, tempus desistere pugnae, solus ego in palanta feror, soli mihi pallas debetur, cuperipse parens spectatura adesset. So tempus, imagine est implied here, so tempus, it is time, desistere, to stand down, pugnae, from the fight. Solus ego in palenta feror, so solus, alone, ego, I. Okay, very, very emphatic beginning. So I alone, feror, am going after, or in palanta, so against Pallas, so just note the form of palanta there. I alone am going against Pallas. Soli mihi Pallas debetur. Pallas is owed, so note the passive voice in debetur there. Pallas is owed, mihi, to me, soli, alone. So I alone am going after Pallas. Pallas is owed to me alone. Cuperem ipse parens spectator adesset. So I wish, so cuperem, I wish, only that parens, his father, adesset, were here, spectator, as a spectator, so to watch. So, cuperem, I wish, or I should desire, only that his parents, his father, ipse is emphatic, of course, but we don't need to include that in English, so only that his father, adesset, were here, spectator, as a spectator. Okay, so noting the optative use there of cuperem and adesset. Haec ait, he spoke these words, or he said these things. Et soci cesserunt aequore iusso. So he spoke these things, and iusso, by his commands, his comrades, soci cesserunt, withdrew, and aequore. Here's the sense of aequore here is to, I suppose, create some space. Or kind of, or order, I suppose, or a square perhaps. So to put it into longer, kind of more prosaic English, and by his order, his comrades withdrew and cleared the battlefield. Ut at rutulum abscessu juvenis tum iussa superba miratus stupet in turno corpusque per ingens lumina volvit obitque truci procul omnia vissu talibus et dictis et contradicta tyranni. Do a quick pause there. Then, so at is then, abscessu with the withdrawal, rutulum of the Rutulians. So as the Rutulians withdrew, stupet miratus. So this is referring to Pallas. So Pallas wondered at the superba iussa, at the proud commands, and marvelled in turno at Turnus. Now, quae is and, but we might just say as lumina volvit. His eyes turned along. So per here is along, so turned along the ingens corpus, the huge body, and obit surveyed the whole being. Surveyed the whole being. So he obit went over or looked over, I suppose. Surveyed does work well there. Surveyed omnia, all these things, procul from afar, truci visu, with his fierce gaze. So just once more and a bit more cleanly. Pallas wondered. So Pallas is the Euenus mentioned before Tum, so that's Pallas there, Euenus. Pallas wondered at the proud commands and marvelled at Turnus. So in turno, at Turnus, as his eyes, the lumina, so the lights, his eyes, volvit turned per ingens corpus along the huge body, and obit surveyed omnia, all these things, his whole being, procul from afar, with his truci visu, with his fierce gaze. Talibus et dictis et contradicta tyranni. Talibus, and such were the words. Talibus dictis, and such were his words. I guess let's try this again. He went against dicta, those spoken tyranny of the tyrant, talibus et dictis, with such words. Okay, so we might say, and such were the words he hurled, I think. So trying to get a sense of throwing, I guess, or motion towards in this sense. So he hurled contra dicta, against those spoken by the tyrant. So that's referring to the speech that's to follow. Aut spolis ego. Aut spolis ego iam raptis laudabor opimis, aut leto insigni, sorti pater aequus utrique est. So laudabor is where we begin, so I will be praised. Aut, either, for spolis raptis, the spoils having been taken, or opimis, the rich spoils having been taken, or rather we can just make that active, for taking the rich spoils of my enemy's leader. So that's a reference to the spoils of war, so they have to be taken from the leader of the enemies. That's where we get enemy's leader from. So the rich spoils of my enemy's leader, out, or leto insigni, for a distinguished death. It's a very lean contrast. So I will be praised either for taking the spoils of the leader of my enemy, or for a distinguished death. And this is very sad, I think, full of tragedy, tragic irony, really. Sorti pater aequus utrique est. My father, so pater, my father, aequus, est will be equally pleased. So utrique sorti with either fate. Okay, so my father will be equally pleased with either fate. So we move on. Toleminas. So take away your threats. Fatus medium procedit in aequor. So Fatus having spoken, so after he spoke, procedit, he proceeded in medium aequor, into the middle of the cleared space. Frigidus arcadibus coit in praecordia sanguis. Frigidus sanguis, so cold blood, note the enclosed word order, coit, ran through, or ran into, I guess, or ran through the praecordia arcadibus, the hearts of the Arcadians. Okay, arcadibus being a possessive dative there. So ran through the hearts of the Arcadians. Desiluit turnus biugis pedes apparatire communis. So Turnus desiluit jumped. So note how quickly that was. That said, jumped down Bugis from his chariot, and apparet prepared to go pedes on foot. Comminus, here meaning hand to hand. So prepared to fight on foot, hand to hand. And this brings us to a nice extended simile beginning with utque leo. So just like a lion, specula cum viditab ab alta stare procul campis meditantin proelia taurum. So just like a lion, cum, when, vidit, he has seen, ab alta specula, from a high vantage point, stare procul, and we have to go all the way down to taurum at the end, so a bull, meditantem, rehearsing in proelia for battle, in a procul campus, in a far-off field. Flies down, ad volat, flies down. Haud ali est turni venientis imago. So haud ali est, no, different was the imago turni, the sight of Turnus venientis, coming to fight. So just like a lion when he is seen from a high vantage point, a bull rehearsing for battle in a far-off field, flies down, no different was the sight of Turnus coming to fight. Hunc ubi contiguum missae fore credidit hastae, ire prior palas, siqua forsa diuet ausum vidibus imparibus, magnum quitad aethera fatur. So, ubi, when credited, he believed, hunc, this man, would be, so contiguum missae hastae, in range of a spear cast. Okay, so it had come within range of his spear cast. So 4a giving us the future participle, future infinitive there. So this man would be in range of a spear cast. Ire prior palas, pallas advanced, prior first. Siqua adjuet, so hoping that fortune so siqua fortis is hoping that fortune adjuet might help the viribus imparibus, the weaker man, Alsum for his daring. So hoping that fortune might help the weaker man for his daring. Magnum quitad aethera fatur. And thus, so ita thus, fatur, he spoke, magnum, greatly, ad aethera, to the heavens. Per patris hospitium, or hospitiet mensas quasad venadat adisti, te precor alcidi coeptis singentibus adsis. So, per mensas, so by the tables of hospitium, of the hospitality, patris, of my father, quas, to which adisti you came ad vena, as a visitor, te precor, I pray to you, alcide, Hercules. So Alcilus here is a reference to Hercules. Coeptis ingentibus adsis, that you might stand. So adsis, that you might stand with me is what he means here for this coeptis ingentibus, this huge undertaking. So by the tables of hospitality of my father, to which you came as visitor, I pray to you, Hercules, that you might stand with me now for this huge undertaking. Now moving on to lines 462 to 481. Cernat semenici sibi me prarma cruenta victorem quae ferrant morientia lumina turni. So Cernat, may he see. So may he being Turni at the very end, so I guess Turnus, may he see me rapre, taking his arma cruenta, his blood-red arms, sibi from him, semineci, dying. So as he dies, Cernat, may Turnus see, may me, rapre, taking his blood-red arms from him, and morientia lumina, may his dying eyes, ferrant, bear, victorem, their conqueror. So may the dying eyes of Turnus, that is what Turni is there, so may his dying eyes bear the sight of their conqueror, I think is what we can imply from victorem. So may they see his conqueror. So as he dies, may Turnus see me taking his blood-red arms from him, and may his dying eyes bear the sight of their conqueror. Audit alcides juvenem magnumque subim corde premit gemitum lacrimasque fundit in anis. So Hercules, of the stock of Alcaeus, I suppose. So Alcides is really a patronymic, so referring to his father. So Hercules heard Juvenem, the young man, and premit, suppressed a magnum gemitum, a great groan, sub imo corde, from deep within his heart, and inanes lacrimas, and helpless tears streamed down his face. So, and he poured forth helpless tears is really what effundit means, because lacrimas inanes is the accusative, but we could maybe build some personification there, and helpless tears streamed down his face. Tum genitor natum dictis ad fatur amicis. Then his father, ad fatur, spoke these dictis amicis, these friendly words, natum, to his son. Stat sua quique dies brevet irreparabile tempus, omnibus est vitae. So quique, to each man, stat comes sua dies, his own day. So his own day comes to each man. So to each man comes his own day. tempus is where we go to next, all the way at the end here. So tempus, the time, est, is breve, short, and cannot be recovered. So the time allotted, okay, so est, the time allotted to everyone, is omnibus here. So the time allotted, omnibus, dative, so to everyone, is short and cannot be recovered. Or even, sorry, I've left out vitai, so let's change that. Let's say the time allotted to a life, rather, is breve et, is short, omnibus, for everyone, and irreparabile, cannot be recovered. I think that works better. So the time allotted to a life is short, omnibus, for everyone, and cannot be recovered. But famam, fame, factis, by deeds, extendere, reaches, we might even say can reach out. I think the sense here is beyond death, through deeds. So that fame can reach beyond death through deeds. Hoc virtutis opus. So hoc opus, this is the work, this is the task, virtutis, of courage. So that fame can reach beyond death through deeds, this is the work of courage. Troia sub muenibus altis torniati cecidere Deum, quin occidit una sarpedon me progenies. Tot, so many. Okay, so we have to start in that second line. So tot, so many. So many nati, so many sons, Deum, of the gods, cecidere, fell, sub moenibus altis, beneath the lofty walls, Troiae, of Troy. Quin occidit, so also fell, so with them fell also una sarpedon. I guess una gives that sense of at the same time, or with them, or together, I suppose. So together with them fell also sarpedon, mea progenies, my own son. So with them also fell Sarpedon, my own son. Etiam sua turnum fata vocant, metasque dati pervenit ad aevi. Turnus sua, etiam, is also vocant, called by his own fate. So fata vocant, the fates call, the fates also call Turnus. Okay, but I think the sua there, his own fates, also call Turnus. So I think we can happily turn that into a passive. So Turnus is also called by his own fates, and metas, so that's here referring to time. I guess the kind of the turning points in a circle, so it's like the turning points of life, perhaps, is the metaphor there. But metas, the time. No, actually, I think we can take dati aioi instead and pair metas with ad. So I think the aioi will be the age, dati allotted or given to him, but when it has reached ad metas, I think is a much nicer way of saying it. Excuse my blunder. So in the time allotted to him has reached its limit. So the metas being the turning points. So the limit, I think here, the end of the course. So and the time allotted to him has reached its limit. Sicite, thus he spoke. at quoculos rutulorum recit arvis. And then recit, he turned his eyes away from arvis, away from the fields, rutulorum, of the Rutulians. So Jupiter here can't even bear to look at the bloodshed that's about to happen. Okay, so this is something horrible about to happen to Pallas. So thus he spoke and turned his eyes away from the fields of the Rutulians. At Pallas magnis emitit viribus hastam vaginaque cava fulgentem deripetensem. Then Pallas emitit, cast off his hastam, his spear, magnis vidibus, at the great man, vaginaque, and deripit, drew his ensem, his fulgentem ensem, his flashing sword, cava vagina, from its hollow sheath. So then Pallas cast off his spear at the great man and drew his flashing sword from its hollow sheath. Illa volans umeri surgunquat hegmina summa. Summa incidit, atque viam clipei molita per auras tandem etiam magnos trinxit de corpore turni. So, umeri surgunt, his shoulders raised up their summa tegmina, their lofty guard, qua, which illa volans, that flying spear, incidit, bit into. So his shoulders raised up their lofty guard, which his flying spear bit into. Atque, and molita here, forced, viam, its way, per auras, through the rim, clipei, of the shield. So a clipeum is the name for a small kind of heroic shield, like what we would see in the Iliad. So forced its way through the rim of the shield, and tandem, at last, etiam, even, strinxit, grazed the de corpore magno, the great body, turni, of Turnus. Hic turnus ferro praefixum robur acuto in palanta dio librans iacit atquita fatur. Here Turnus, librans, balancing a robur, a staff of sturdy oak, acuto ferro, tipped with iron, praefixum, so affixed with a tip of iron, rather. Okay, so just tipped with iron. I think we can leave out praefixum. Due for a long time. Cast it in Palanta, at Pallas, atquaita fatur, and spoke thus. So here Turnus, for a long time, balancing a staff of verde oak, tipped with iron, cast it at Pallas. You might even say then cast it at Pallas, and spoke. Aspice num magesit nostrum penetrabile telum. Our final line in this section. Look closely, aspice. Look closely at. So num, I guess. If not my weapon, sit should be more penetrating. So mage penetrabile, more penetrating. So look closely at, I think we could say, how my weapon should be, sit should be more penetrating. So 482 to 500. Dixerat, he had spoken. It's a very, very powerful moment. He had spoken. Very, very forceful, I suppose. At Clopeon, tot ferriterga, tot airis, quem pelis totiens obeat circum data tauri, vibranti cuspis medium transverberat ictu loricaeque moras et pectus perforatingens. So he had spoken. Then the shield, tot ferri terga, with so many layers ferri of iron. Tot aire, so many layers of bronze. Quem, which about he enveloped with the circumdata covering of, we could say, so many layers of pelis tauri, of oxhide. So we're implying tot again. So was transverbarat, pierced through, medium, in its middle, ictu, by a shuddering, vibranti ictu, by a shuddering blow, lorikai, cuspis, sorry, of the spear, lorikai quemoras, and the delaying breastplate, the delays of the breastplate rather, so the protective breastplate, and pectus ingens, his huge chest, and pierced his huge chest. Sorry, so perforat is what I missed there. So and pierced the protective breastplate and his ingens, pectus, his huge chest. So a bit more cleanly, because this is a very impressive section of poetry. So then the shield, with so many layers of iron, so many layers of bronze, which he enveloped with a covering of so many layers of oxhide, was pierced through in its middle by a shuddering blow of the spear, and it, being the spear, pierced the protective breastplate and his huge chest. Ille rapid calidum frustrere vulnere tellum. That palace, rapid, tore, emphatic positioning there, tore the calidum tellum, the warm missile, de vulnere, from his wound, frustra, in vain. Okay, so that palace tore the warm missile from his wound in vain. Una iadem que via sanguis animus que sequentur. So una iadem via, so by the same path, animus, his soul, sanguis, and blood, sequuntur, followed as one. So una, as one. So by the same path, iadem via, by the same path, sanguis, animus, his soul and lifeblood, followed, sequuntur, una, as one. Corvit in vulnus sonitum super arma dedere aeternam hostilem moriens petit ore cruento. So corvit, he fell forward in vulnus, onto his wound, arma, his arms, sonitum, clanging, super, dedere, so that his arms gave a clang, a sound, super, above his body. So his armor clanging over his body. Eteram hostilem moriens petit ore cruento, and moriens, dying, he made for terram, the earth, so he bit the earth with his ore cruento, with his bloodied face. So he fell forward onto his wound, his armor clanging over his body, and he bit the hostilem, terram, the enemy earth, with his bloodied face. And dying, rather, he bit the bloodied earth, the enemy earth, with his bloodied face. Quem turnus super adsistens. So super adsistens, standing over him, turnus said. So standing over him, Turnus said, Arcades, Arcadians, inquit, memores haec. So remember my words. Mea dicta, my words. Referte haec, rather, carry this message back, ewanro, to Evander. So Arcadians, remember my words and carry this message back to Evander. Qualem meruit palanta remito. Remito palanta, I send back Pallas, I'm sending him Pallas, qualem meruit, in the state he deserves. So I'm sending back Pallas in the state he deserves. Quisquis honus tumuli, quidquid solamen humandi est, largior. So I grant freely, so largior, I grant freely, whatever, quis honuli, whatever honor, tumuli of the tomb, so whatever honor there is in a tomb, and solamen, comfort, humandi, of a burial. So I grant freely to him whatever honor there is in a tomb and the comfort of a burial. Haudeli stabunt aenea parva hospitia. So the hospitia aenea, the Aenean friendship, stabunt, will cost illy that man, haud parvo no less. So Aenean friendship will cost that man no less. Et laua presit pede talia fatus examinem rapiens imania pondera baltei impressumque nefas. And fatus, sorry, excuse the school bell there. Fatus, after he spoke talia such words, presit, he pushed the exanimem, the corpse, pede with his pede laua with his left foot, and rapiens snatched up the imania pondera baltai, the immense weight of the sword belt. And so quae and the belt was impressum, embossed, nefas, with wicked scenes. You could even say which was embossed with wicked scenes. Una sub nocte, in one night, Ugali, the night of their marriage. So in one night, the night of their marriage. Caesa manus juvenum feri thalamique cruenti. Manus, a band, juvenum, of young men. Caesa was fuere foully slain, and the thalami, the marriage chambers, made bloody, cruenti, made bloody. So a band of young men was foully slain and their marriage chambers made bloody. Quae clonus Euretides multo caelaverat auro. All which, okay, but I think I'm going to say all, and I'm going to make it passive as well. So it's really which clonus Euretides decorated with much gold, but I'm going to say all decorated by clonus Euretides with much gold, just for the flow of it. Quonunc turnus ovat spolio gaudetque potitus. Turnus now, so nunc turnus ovat triumphs with this spoil, and potitus holding it in his hands. So having possessed, I guess, the spoil, so holding it in his hands, he rejoices. So Turnus now triumphs with this spoil, and holding it in his hands, he rejoices. Or you could say it probably more accurately, actually, Turnus now triumphs and rejoices, holding the spoil in his hands. Nescia mens, and this is Virgil speaking now. He's addressing the audience in these next set of lines, 501 to 509, just for a bit. So, Nescia mens hominum fati sortisque futurae et servare modum rebus sublate secundis. So, how unknowing, Nescia, how unknowing are the minds, mens, hominum, of men, fati, of their fate, and futurae sortis, and future lot. So, oh, how unknowing are men's minds of their fate and of their future lot. Servare, as it keeps as it keeps in proportion, or keeps maybe no measure, raised up by good fortune. So, how unknowing are men's minds of their fate and of their future lot, which keep no measure, as it keeps no measure, raised up by good fortune. Turno tempus erit magno cum optavere temptum intactum palanta. So, tempus erit, at a time will come, turno, to Turnus, magno, to great Turnus. A time will come for great Turnus, cum, when, optaverit, he will have wished. Emptum, he could have paid, or he could pay, intactum palanta, for Pallas untouched. Okay, to have kept Pallas untouched. So a time will come for great Turnus when he will have wished he could pay to have kept Pallas untouched. And cum, when he will oderit, hate, spolia, ista, those spoils, diemque, and that day. And when he will hate those spoils and that day. At soci multo gemitu lacrimis quim positum scuta referunt palanta frequentes. Then the Pallas's comrades, frequentes, crowded around him, lacrimis, gemitu, with multo, with much groan, so with a great groan and tears, and referunt palanta, carried him, impositum, spread across scuto, his shield. So then Pallas's comrades crowded around him with a great groan and tears, and carried him back, spread across his shield. O doloratque decus magnum rediture parenti. O you, rediture, who will return. Okay, so note the vocative there. So who will return, as a grief, and decus magnum, and great glory, to your father, parenti, to your father. So, O you who will return as a grief and great glory to your father. Haec te prima dies bello dedit. This has been the first day. This first day, rather, dedit, has given you, te, bello, to war. So this first day, haec prima dies, this first day, dedit, has given te, you, bello, to war. Haec eadem aufert, this same day has carried you away. Cum tamen gentes rutulorum linquis acervos. And tamen yet, linquis, you leave behind. Ingentes acervos, huge piles of Rutulians, of Rutulian dead. And yet you leave behind you great piles, or huge piles, of Rutulian dead. So this first day has given you to war. This same day has carried you away, and yet you leave behind you great piles of Rutulian dead. Thank you, everyone.